TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Jared, hey, we're gonna need you to tone it down with the Summer Friday thing, okay?
What are you talking about?
Well, for one, it's not summer anymore.
Oh, really?
Coconut. Also, who is this?
I'm the caddy.
Oh, he's my intern.
Sorry, intern. I'm his intern.
Yeah, he's doing a great job.
No golfing in the office, okay? Summer Fridays are over. You can keep the Hawaiian shirt, but the rest of this stuff, all right? Are you grilling?
Oh, yeah. Did you want a burger or a hot dog?
No, grilling in the office.
It's a good point. We should take this outside.
No, that don't. You put that right back down.
Yo, it's all in the hips.
Oh, dude, come on, we gotta go. Let's go.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time of the week for a good friend and colleague, Mr. Brady Kannon. A little tea time wager. We're talking a little golf, and it looked like a frigid Las Vegas last night. Those guys couldn't get off that course quick enough. I mean, you think Las Vegas, it's December, at least it's going to be warm. While those guys were a tad cold. We'll get into that. I mean, what's Scottie going to do with $5 million in crypto, as he says? I don't know what this is, but just another check on the box for Mr. Scheffler in the year of 2024. Shout out to our proud sponsor and partnerships. It's Viva Tequila Seltzer. New flavor lemon. Over the summer, the East Coast, of course, was cuckoo for coconut. Brady gets a little care package from the reindeers here to start him off for the Christmas season. Can't wait to hear the reviews later on for that. WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play. Download that app. It's free. Myself, Travis, Zach, Amber. The list is endless. Come join us today and have a great day and get ready for 2025. And of course, Atlanta Steaks and Seafood, Terry Smith. Jump on over to Facebook. Follow him while you're there. Head on over to atlantasteaksandseafood.com. Steaks, chops, lobster tails, appetizers, you name it. He's got you covered. Order by the 20th and you'll get it by Christmas. Promo code STEAKS10. That is Steaks10, and get 10% off your full order. Tell them JD from ECSI sent you. So without further ado, the star of the show, Mr. Brady Kannon.
Mr. Dawson, hey, happy Wednesday to you, my friend. That was fun last night at Shadow Creek, not too far from my office here, probably 25 minutes away. One of the best golf courses in the world, of course, designed, I want to say in the neighborhood of 25 years ago by Tom Fazio and Steve Wynn. And yes, Fazio credits Steve Wynn as part of the design of that golf course. And I can tell you, I've been out there personally a couple times, and I know Mr. Wynn and, his creativity and his vision well enough. You can see his handprint, his fingerprints, whatever, all over that design. It's an absolutely remarkable place. And I think we talked about it on the show. For me, the handicap was pretty simple, Jeff. I'm like, okay, DeChambeau and Rory, they're going to be in each other's heads about the U.S. Open and, the disappointment for Rory and the jubilation for DeChambeau. I said, kept it doesn't care. And Scottie, it doesn't matter where, when, how, who, he wants to crush you. And that's exactly what happened. And actually, Rory got out to a hot start and Scottie just kind of followed suit. But the PGA Tour wins over Liv, cashed that ticket at about minus 150 or so. I thought it was that simple, and it kind of looked that way. It was relatively underwhelming, I thought, the broadcast last night. But hey, a little taste of what you might be able to experience out here if you gamble enough or you have enough money to play Shadow Creek.
We have talked all year, all year. 2025 will be the start of our third year of doing shows together. God bless us. And the dogs are barking, which that means is always a good sign for us here. We haven't witnessed the robotic play. When I say robotic, I mean when Tiger was in his full dominance, it was who's playing for second. And now this time of year, I'm getting all my emails for all different kinds of pools. There's, pick one from each category. And of course, Scottie Scheffler's there. I would say if I was going to create any kind of pool like that, you just take Scottie off, because if you don't have Scottie, you have no chance here, Brady.
Yeah. It gets hard with, pools like that. I used to play in a pool many years ago where you had, 40 some PGA Tour tournaments throughout the entire season. And like a one and done, it was the same thing, but you had to pick them all before the season started. You didn't just go week to week. You had to set your whole 40 tournament, schedule with, where you wanted to put, this is back in the day, where you wanted to put Tiger, where you put Vijay Singh, where you put Ernie Els, Jim Furyk, all these guys. And who was going to show up. But nowadays, you have to say, okay, where am I going to put Scottie? Am I going to use him at the Masters? Am I going to put him at the Players Championship? Am I going to put him in Phoenix where he's won twice? So, yeah, I mean, he's the big dog, and there's probably a good chance you're not going to necessarily win that pool if you don't land correctly on Scottie. Not necessarily winning that week, but he's got to probably finish top 3 and cash a big check for you to stay relevant, because all the guy does is finish top 10, right? So everybody's likely to have him when he finishes top 10. You can get ahead of the field if you've got him when he gets probably a first or a second.
Yeah, good friend. Stuart Bunting. Stuart, love you to death. Happy holidays to you and your family. He says, hey guys, happy holidays to you both. Thanks for the great info all year, but I must say I am taking an oath of not betting outright winners when Scottie is involved. He's just too dominant. What do you guys think? Happy, healthy, and wallet 2025.
Well, you got to, again, pick your spots with him because he's going to win again. Now, we did great. Last year, well, if you count the Hero World Challenge, pre-tournament, I bet on Scottie 3 times. I cashed once at the Hero, a couple weeks ago in the Bahamas. The other 2 times I bet on him pre-tournament were the U.S. Open at Pinehurst, where he didn't play that well, and the Phoenix Open. I was betting on a three-peat there, and there was a point with about 4 holes left to play where he was the betting favorite at about minus 250, if I recall. But eventually, he kind of fell off, and it was Sahith Theegala and Nick Taylor who eventually won. But this, Jeff, I think you and I both hit him. I know I hit him about 4 or 5 times in game, because on Sunday, when he turned the corner and he got a shot or 2 ahead, it was forget about it. It was like Floyd Mayweather. This guy was never going to lose. Once he had you, you were done. And yeah, I cashed some good in-game tickets with Scottie. So that, you talk about never betting him outright. Yes and no. I think in-game Scottie is a monster that you can make some money with. Pre-tournament, obviously, you just have to pick your spots when it looks right. And that's obviously hard to do. I don't care who it is. Pre-tournament is very, very difficult. I go back to, you opened the show with it about the guys looking really cold at Shadow Creek last night. DeChambeau was in that big jacket and the caddies were wearing the beanies and everything. I've been here 30 years. People don't realize Las Vegas gets cold. Okay, yeah, we get hot June, May, June, July, August, September, October, and November are typically gorgeous, but you get December, January, February. There's been snow on the ground here before. You get overnight lows in the 30s. It's freezing, overnight lows in the 20s. Now, I'm talking to people back east. I know that doesn't sound like much, but these guys playing golf at night. Now, the other thing is it's been unseasonably warm here. We're getting temperatures like 65, 66. That's probably 10 degrees above normal. Your normal highs in mid to late December are 55. That's pretty chilly. And then your overnight lows, 29, 30. So it's not 100 here every day, folks. I've been telling you this for a long time. And I'm in the golf business out here, Jeff. We get these people from Minnesota and Canada, and, they're out here playing golf in December in short sleeves and shorts. And it's like, guys, it's pretty cold here right now. So, yeah. And I saw some reactions on social media to all these guys being all bundled up last night. That sun goes down. It was a gorgeous day yesterday, but that sun goes down and it gets chilly quick because it's the desert. There's nothing in the air, right? And so I saw some reactions on social media like, God, how is it cold in Vegas? I'm like, guys, it gets cold here too.
I used to do, I'd go out there 5-6 times a year, and my last stop of the year all the time was mid to late November, either right before Thanksgiving or right after.
A little chilly, yeah.
So the funny is you can see the locals versus the guys back east. It's low 30s, and they got the big winter coats, the stocking hats, and the scarves, and we're walking around in t-shirts and shorts. They're like, guys, hey, what the hell's going on? But my real claim to fame is I do a lot of work during the first week of football, first 2 weeks. That's the September trip. But the real fun trip is right around 4th of July for the week of the main event for the World Series of Poker. I'll spend 7 to 10 days out there with friends and colleagues in the main event. I just thrive on that one. I stay right across from Topgolf. I got about a 27-minute walk to the strip and to the casino where it's being played. I never cut through the malls, and I want to go outside. I thrive on that 115, 116, 117. I lose 8 to 10 pounds just on that trip alone, Brady.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I remember, and to be real here, we had I think it was all over the country. It was extremely hot last summer, no matter where you were. And we broke records here in Las Vegas. But typically in July and August, every day is about 108, which is hot. I've been here a long time, and I have discovered once it hits 105, it's hot. If you're below that, really, it's very reasonable actually. But once you're 105, 106 and beyond, it's hot. But yeah, occasionally we always get those crazy weeks. Usually it's 2 weeks per summer, one in July and one in August, where bang, it hits 115. And I remember my wife and I were at the Bellagio on a staycation one time. And it was one of those weeks, and you lay out in the sun, it's 115. 5 minutes later, you got to jump in the pool. It's just every 5 minutes, it's in the pool and out, in the pool and out. So, but I love it. I would rather 115 is something, but I would rather it be 108 than it be 45.
And the sun goes down. It's 9:30 at night, and it cools down to a nice 98 or something.
Yes, so. or even like 85 or 90, and you can still get in the pool. No, the summer nights, there's nothing like it.
Circa 50 contestants left. The rubber obviously is going to hit the road. If you saved Buffalo this week, if you saved the Packers, and I think there's one other big favorite, injuries, quarterback changes. A lot of people in our lanes talking about it looks like there's going to be a big split. But survive and advance, get through this week, then the real rubber hits the road, because you got to play Christmas Day, or you got to play, obviously, on the day after Christmas. You do a podcast every Friday on the contest. What are you seeing? How you feeling? I mean, do you think there's going to be a big chop coming up at some point, or is there a train wreck still coming?
I think we have a train wreck left. And I hope our good friend Paul Bovey avoids the train wreck. I'd like to see him, reach the very end, whether it's amongst 20 people or 30 people or whatever it is. But I'm certainly rooting for him. But yeah, we have not had any carnage in Circa Survivor when we thought we might. It really started the week before Thanksgiving, and it hasn't done. I mean, how many people have we lost in total? 20. Over the course of the last 5 weeks or so. Nothing like the rate of elimination that we saw to begin the season, which was unprecedented. But it's slowed down quite a bit here. The favorites were all over the place last week. I hope you're still okay if you're an underdog player last week. My goodness, the favorites just crushed it. But you're right. Obviously we've got another week here, week 16. And then week 17, we have week 17A and week 17B, just like we had for Thanksgiving. You've got to play those Christmas games as a separate week, and there's only 3 of them. You've got the Chiefs at the Steelers. I've got it written on my wall here. The Chiefs at the Steelers. We know it looks like Mahomes is going to be okay, but that ankle a little banged up. The Ravens at the Texans. Chiefs at Steelers. That's a very competitive game. Beginning of the year, everybody's going, okay, I'm saving the Chiefs for Christmas. The Steelers might be the right side now. Ravens at Texans. That's a very interesting game. And then Seahawks at Bears. Do you want any part of either of those teams? That's going to be really tricky. I think, actually, I'm not even sure if anybody has 2 entries left. If you had 2 entries left, I think, Jeff, when you get to Christmas, and there might be one person that has 2 entries left, I'm not positive. I'd play both sides of a game probably on those Christmas games. And we're a little ways away, so things change. People could get injured and things could develop here that make one side clearly favorable. But, boy, you'd love to have 2 entries left with that Christmas 3-game slate, because that's a pretty tough 3-game slate right there. You hope to get through that. Then you've got to choose from the Sunday games. And I think if you make it through that gauntlet, then you're probably involved in some sort of chop at that point. I would think between now and then, we're going to see some carnage. It doesn't seem like it goes this long without some sort of train wreck.
Well, of course, on Sunday, the 4-second malfunction, which the NFL wink, so there was a handful on
Not
Washington.
Pretty.
On Washington, and you knew if New Orleans scored, they'd go for 2, which they did score, and I would have ran the ball there, but who am I? But I'm going to go back to the Christmas games for a second. Here's my mentality. You're going to see most people that if Geno Smith is out for Seattle and it's Sam Howell, I'm going to say that a lot of people are going to take that bite at the apple on the Bears with Caleb at home, saying, hey, we saw what Sam Howell looks like. This could be their Super Bowl here, number one. Or flip it. If Geno's in and playing, I think you might have a lot of Seattle fans that day in the contest.
Well, it's not a bad move either way, because you would think that the majority of the pool is going to take one of the bigger, better teams, the Ravens, the Chiefs, whatever. And nobody wants any part of the Seahawks or Bears. So, again, just, speaking way ahead of schedule here and forecasting, maybe you're in the vast minority at that point and root for carnage, right? So you hope you hit the right side on some game that nobody else is on, and things go crazy in the other games before you, and you might walk away with 10 people left in the contest or something like that. That's always a great scenario and strategy when you're playing in any Survivor contest, whether it be Circa or not. Everybody's going to gravitate towards the Ravens as a 16-point favorite, right? Well, you want to kind of pick one off that nobody else is on that wins, and then you have some train wrecks, elsewhere, and that moves you up the leaderboard, so to speak. So, that Christmas, that 17A is going to be really interesting. But it's getting down to the nitty gritty. The inherent value of your ticket is basically $300,000. That's the other thing, Jeff. If you're still alive in the contest at this point, no matter what happens, I hope you have positioned yourself to make some money, because you'd be ludicrous not to. When you've got a ticket that is worth that much money, and Circa extends these line of credits and stuff like that. If you want to hedge in this, you should be turning a pretty nice profit versus that $1,000 investment way back in August or what have you.
And we partnered obviously with WagerWire here, and there again, this is perfect for them. We always talk about they're good friends, obviously, with Jeffrey Benson, Derek, and stuff, and their software would allow you to come in and, hey, my ticket value is 300,000. You can sell shares of it, and still have a huge sweat. So that's what we're hoping. Hopefully, maybe next year there, Brady. You got a handful of games you wanted to talk about. Steelers, Ravens, Giants, Falcons, Eagles, Commanders, Saints, Packers. The end zone is yours. Have some fun.
I think the I'll start with the Steelers, Ravens. I was surprised that game opened as high as 6.5 in favor of Baltimore. I made it 3.5. And I'm not yet running to the window to bet Pittsburgh because I want to see what is up with TJ Watt and George Pickens. We know Watt's impact. When TJ Watt is not in the lineup, the Steelers are a completely different team. And that's been true ever since he's been a part of this team. Their record without TJ Watt is abysmal, and versus what the record is with TJ Watt is an incredible variance. And Pickens has all of a sudden been that stark as well. The offense when he's not in it is anemic versus when he is. So that's a big key piece for me. And I don't really think the line, if the odds makers are thinking TJ Watt is not in the lineup, I think that might be 1.5, maybe point to some people, maybe even 2 points to some people. But he's a mover for sure. Not so much Pickens, but the combination of both of them could be worth 2 points. So maybe my 3.5 is more like a 4.5, and the odds makers are figuring on Pickens and Watt not playing. So I would stay tuned on that one. But if Watt and Pickens are in, I would try and jump as soon as possible to get the 6.5, because you know how it is in the history of this contest. First of all, the underdog always covers. And second of all, it's typically a 3-point game. The number of these contests that have been decided by less than a touchdown is almost 90. I don't know what the percentage is, but you get my drift. It's never a blowout one way or another, basically. So that game's very interesting. The other game, and you're going to have to fill me in on the rest, but I know I wanted to talk about the Commanders and the Eagles. A lot of people this week, the buzz has all of a sudden turned to Philadelphia and the Super Bowl and home field advantage and Detroit and all these injuries. I think Philadelphia might lose this week outright. Not so fast, folks. It's been a trend that we've talked about here on the show all year long, Jeff. If all you're doing is betting against Dan Quinn the week before a division game and betting on Dan Quinn the week of a division game, you've made a lot of money this season. And as evidence, the aforementioned Saints game last week, a bet against the Commanders in a game prior to a division game. What happened? The Commanders didn't cover. I know it was controversial, but they didn't cover. And if you bet against them, you cash that ticket. Now, this is the first bet I made of the week. I took 3.5 with the Commanders. They are extremely good in division. And I'll go back and I'll tell this story again. Dan Quinn was an assistant on the defensive side of the ball with the Seattle Seahawks. He then was hired as the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. That following year, he beat up on the NFC West, his former division, like to the tune of 4-1 against the spread, something like that. Very familiar with that former division. Then he was at Atlanta and left there and moved to the Dallas Cowboys as their defensive coordinator. Against the NFC South, his former division, again, like 4 or 5-0 against the spread. Very familiar. And now he goes from the Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator to a head coach in the NFC East. And the same trend has been consistent again, as well as, like I say, that week before a division game. Now, on top of all that, his offensive coordinator, Cliff Kingsbury, when he was head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, 7-0 against the spread against the NFC East division. These two guys know that division like the back of their hand, and I think they are going to be extremely competitive. It's a same season revenge game. Philadelphia got them earlier this year. I think Washington is absolutely live, plus the 3.5, and I think there's a good chance they win this game outright this week against the Eagles. The Eagles are feeling a little bit fat and happy. They come off of that huge win off of Pittsburgh, and they're looking at this schedule. We got this. Wait just a minute. I think Washington might, and maybe that's where you're talking about some carnage in Circus Survivor, Jeff. Maybe the Washington Commanders are one of those upsets.
The other two games, Giants at Falcons, Saints at Packers.
Okay, Giants at Falcons is interesting because now we know that Michael Penix Jr. is going to start. And when I, gave you these games to talk about, we did not know that just yet. This game opened 10, and I thought that was so ridiculous. I mean, who are the Atlanta Falcons to be favored by 10 points over anybody? Have you seen this team the last 4 weeks or so? And it's really weird, a Jekyll and Hyde. This team was okay. They weren't going to win a Super Bowl, but they were putting up 500 yards passing, Kirk Cousins, and then all of a sudden the bye week, and he starts throwing interceptions. He's now thrown 9 interceptions in like his last 5 games or something. It's just flipped on its ear. It's been really weird. And I credit that in a bad way, I guess, negatively to Raheem Morris. I don't think he's a great head coach. I think he's a pretty good coordinator. Some guys just are not built to be the CEO, and I think he's one of them. But you look at that game against the Raiders, okay? They were 6-point favorites, and they won by 6. Well, they barely even won the game. If that Hail Mary gets answered at the end, the Raiders win the game. I mean, it was that close to the Raiders covering or winning that game outright. And that was as a 6-point favorite on the road, which apparently they weren't necessarily deserving of being, and that's against Desmond Ridder with no Max Crosby. Now, I understand you've got the Giants with Tim Boyle, but is there a lot of difference between the Giants and the Raiders? And so now the Falcons are going to go home. Let's say the true number against the Raiders was 3.5, what they legitimately should have been. And now they're 7 points different at home against the same team, basically, if not maybe a better team. And now I understand it's come down to 8 with Penix inserted to the lineup, but that doesn't make any sense. That means they're betting on the Giants. They're agreeing with what I'm saying, that the number's too high. I think Penix is probably a downgrade. I mean, Kirk Cousins is a pretty good player. We know that. He's gone through a weird, awful stretch here. But Michael Penix has hardly played a lick this entire season. You're going to thrust him into an NFL game for the first time as a starter. You could possibly have a new quarterback bounce. We've seen that with Carolina, with other teams throughout years and years of the NFL. But I just thought this point spread was really out of whack. And again, do any of us have the guts to run to the window with the New York Giants? Not necessarily, but just a little commentary on this one, that the Falcons, that big of a favorite, is something's odd there, I think, and off. And then the other one, the Packers, and I've said this before on the show too, Jeff, I think when you get to point spreads of 12, 13, and 14, it's very hard for me to conceptualize where that number should be when you get to those big double 2 touchdown numbers. And I thought, okay, 10.5, 11.5, that's probably right. And then it opens up 13.5. And I was like, okay, I'm okay with that. I was thinking I wanted to bet the Packers. Now it's gotten to 14. I don't know if I'm going to do it, but I still might. And the angle here is that I wanted to talk about on the show is this time of year when we are past week 10, and basically when the weather changes in Green Bay, Wisconsin. You take a warm weather team, specifically in this case, even more powerful, a dome team that travels to Lambeau this time of year. Their record against the spread is absolutely like 0-100. They just never cover. And so maybe the odds makers are onto something here, because this number is getting pretty high. Laying 14 is difficult. But I'm going to try and figure out a way to be on the Packers, because we saw it over Thanksgiving. We were talking Circus Survivor. I would have been on the Packers. The Green Bay Packers on Thanksgiving at Lambeau against the Miami Dolphins, a warm weather team. It's not going to be pretty, and it wasn't. And I think you get the same thing here. I don't know if 14 is where I'm going to go as far as laying that number, but somehow I'm going to be involved in Green Bay winning this game and winning it comfortably.
I think also maybe that line creeping 13.5, 14. I think maybe as the week progresses, the big concern for the Saints. Obviously, we know the quarterback is not too good, but also I'm probably starting to feel that Alvin Kamara might also be out as well. For the Saints, he got dinged up late in that game, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. Scroll has been going the whole time, Brady. We know we can find you on X and Twitter, of course, at Las Vegas Golfer. But as we always end the show, we'd like to know any written work and, of course, your Sports Grid schedule.
Yeah, the written work will not resume until the first few days of January after the new year when we land in glorious Kapalua, Maui. I always just love seeing that on the TV, the PGA Tour season kicking off, and you're looking at the ocean and Maui. And gosh, I played that course a handful of times and always love seeing that scene to kick off the new year. So that's when the written golf work will return. And the Sports Grid stuff continues later this afternoon, 7:30 Eastern. I'll be on with Joe Ranieri, and then at 10 p.m. Eastern on with Gabe Morency and Cam Stewart. And then, of course, over the weekend on Saturday, and I believe you are already scheduled to be one of our guests. We'll be talking college football playoffs and, of course, NFL previews as well.
Brady, always a pleasure. I can't thank you enough. Enjoy yourself this week and weekend. Hope to catch up, obviously, on Saturday with you and Adam on the Sports Grid. Have a great, great day, sir.
Hey, and next week, I don't know, it'll be Christmas morning at this time out here in Las Vegas. If you want to talk stocking stuffers, I'm here for you, man.
All right, we're going to have to figure that one out as well. So we will catch up real soon on that one, Brady. Brady Kannon, go follow him at Las Vegas Golfer. When we come back, Tyler WYATT on remote, getting ready to play some poker and crack some aces. Stay tuned.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way, with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop, come on, baby, higher.
Yourself a merry little Christmas night, and have yourself a merry little Christmas. Up, 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 up.
Well, come rain, come sleet, come snow, come Ohio State, Tennessee, come a good poker game. It doesn't matter. We find a way to get this gentleman on, the one and only Mr. Tyler WYATT. What's up, T?
Happy holidays, JD. Yeah, a day early. Got a phone call that there was going to be a pretty juicy Pot Limit Omaha game in Cincinnati last night. So instead of leaving Knoxville on Thursday to head to Columbus, we leave on Tuesday night and drive to Cincinnati and play poker from about 8 o'clock last night until just a couple of hours ago. So we're running on adrenaline and pumpkin chips. So, but yeah, well, worth the drive. At least happy to report.
Well, that's all that matters. 'Tis the season. Let me ask you a quick poker question. You play year-round, professional poker player. This time of year, now the games that you are playing, it's not like you're just walking into the Encore and you're looking for the fishes. And my point to this question, Tyler, is it's a Christmas season. And in our lanes, especially, you got this long Christmas list, and just say your luck has been bad. You can't pick a winner with tomorrow's newspaper. I'm going to try my... I got to pull out a quick 500, sit at the 1-3 table and try to, double my money. Do you notice a difference in play, or how about the attitudes and the emotions on the felt at the Christmas season? Do you feel the pressure on some of these players? Like, hey, this is my daughter's Barbie doll here. This is that $500 toy that they wanted that I'm trying to win here.
Definitely there. I think the range of emotions towards the holidays and I think there's other times of the year where you go through that. But yeah, Christmas, I think you can tell in the, mid stakes, definitely. You have a lot more daily grinders, guys that, you know, who may play professionally, and, a couple of days in a row losing sessions, takes a toll. You have a lot of guys that just play outside of their bankroll. There's a lot of younger guys that haven't really kind of been through the swamp and came out to really understand how important bankroll management is in the early years of, poker or sports betting, or, just business in general. It doesn't have to be gambling. That can be said for anyone, any small or medium-sized business owner. But definitely towards the holidays, I think it's already stressful enough. A lot of families host in-laws or host, a large number of people. So there's already, I think, some tension with a lot of players with stuff that goes on off the felt. So certainly, a couple of bad beats in a row, or, losing a couple of coin flips in a row can only add to that. But yeah, definitely, towards Christmas, this time of year, definitely a noticeable difference. But yeah, I mean, the larger stakes games, I don't think you see it as much, because most of the guys that, you're playing in a game that's, 25, 50, 100 or 100, 200 blinds. It's, you hope that all of those guys have the bankroll to absorb the limit that they're playing. I'll at least say that.
We're going to go to the hardwood here. You and I were trying to get to the Mecca last weekend. It was like a Final Four game. UConn and the Zags. UConn gets out 13-2. Zags, not a problem. It's their guard play. As you advance in March Madness with strong veteran guard play, and there's no one better, I think, than Nemart. And then they added a transfer that is just an absolute beast. We talked on the phone. Big guy gets in foul trouble, was never a factor there. We're going to Big East play tonight with UConn, and I know their past couple years of history, they've come out of the gate with a loss. And I did the 13.5 point favorites against Xavier. We'll get to that in a second. But thoughts on that Zags UConn game? I know UConn's a good team this year. Are they last year's team? No. Can they get to that point? Yeah. They remind me of 2 years ago's team that had some bumps, that were just kind of finding their way. They lost in the semis of the Big East, had an extra day off, semis in the Big East tournament, and then they rattled off 6 in a row. Thoughts on last Saturday's game? What'd your eyes see?
Saw really, really, I mean, the Maui was just a dreadful experience on, both sides of the ball, offensively, defensively. We're playing together. Coaches were frustrated. That was just, that's something that they've probably tried, I would say, day in and day out, to just put farther and farther behind them. That was a collective performance defensively. They got out to a hot start, obviously, and really they kind of dictated the tempo there early, and then Gonzaga rallied, got back into it tied, and then took the lead after being in a double-digit hole, before the first media timeout, essentially. But they, Graham Ike is one of the guys on that Gonzaga team that they run the offense through in the half court. He's a guy that is capable of getting a double-double every night, physical presence. He's an adequate free throw shooter. He's going to get fouled a lot. But they, UConn, I thought going into this season they were going to miss that dominant presence by Klingman. This is a team that, for the last couple of games I think they've figured out something. Rotation, I think you still have a couple of questions on maybe who's that first and second guy off the bench long term, but that was just a performance that was probably the most complete performance against the quality opponent that they've played since the tournament last season. Obviously, some different pieces in that recipe there. But Gonzaga is a team that will, you'll see Gonzaga in the Sweet 16. I think this year, Elite Eight. Certainly, they're on the short list of teams that can compete for a national championship. Their backcourt is probably as good as anyone's in basketball. They have two really, really good guards who you mentioned that they add in the transfer there. He looks like he's been in that program for a couple of years already. Mark Few, obviously one of the best coaches in college basketball. But that was just a dominant performance. And you saw a team that jumped out to a big lead. And then you saw a team that, they allow the lead to go away. Gonzaga gets out in front there. And then they get back on a rally and kind of take dominance over that game again. Never really felt like in the second half that game was in question, just complete control. That a lot of that, I think, has to do with Hurley. He was a bit frustrated. And there was some, part of that Maui hangover a couple of games after they get back to the mainland. Looks like they've all kind of forgotten about that. You have to have a, short-term memory in sports in general. But that's a Connecticut team on Saturday. When they play like that, they're one of the 5-6 best teams in basketball. When they play like they did, obviously, in Maui, it's a team that could be a second round exit in the tournament. But that was the most complete game, I think, that we've seen certainly this year. And you probably have to go back to that dominant run in the tournament last year. If they play anywhere close to like they did on Saturday, they're going to win the regular season conference championship. They'll win, they'll be a front runner to win the title at the end of the season. Yeah, this was a night and day different team from just even, a week and a half ago.
And I really saw the emergence, the rookie, the freshman McNeely, really stepping in. Best game of the year from the transfer Reed from Michigan State. You're going to need something from Slam Johnson at some point this year. He in concussion protocol, will not play tonight. A little disappointed with the transfer from St. Mary's here, but overall, I think they'll be a great team. You haven't even seen the best of Caravan, so I think they're just going to get better as the season progresses. We've talked about your team, Kentucky, who had a great overtime victory against the Zags. We'll talk the Vols. I've talked at length about defensively. They're Houston on steroids. How much offense will they need as the season progresses here? I'm going to talk one team before we go to football that's starting to open my eyes. And the coach, I didn't think preseason they were supposed to do well. A nice win over the weekend. Come from behind against Arizona. What is your thoughts on UCLA, Tyler?
Well, depends on which UCLA team takes the court. I've seen them play like a outside the top 50 team this year, and then I've seen UCLA play where I think maybe they're one of the best 10 teams in all of basketball. So they're as temperamental as probably anyone. It's a team that, obviously the most recent performance is one that you have to tip your cap. Come from behind, obviously, get behind early. But this is a UCLA team that I think they have Sweet 16, Elite 8, ceiling. I don't think that they're a team that's going to win a championship or make a Final Four run. They're young. They're really raw. They're really athletic. They're super athletic. They kind of live and die at times by the three, but this is a team that's well coached. They'll have the edge in coaching in just about every matchup that they see for the rest of the season. But yeah, I mean, they've been tested early, so they've taken a couple of lumps, through 12, 13 games so far. But that team that played on Saturday is capable of beating just about anyone in basketball. Really good defensive team, solid defensively, good enough on offense. If they don't turn the ball over, you could say that probably about 30 teams, 20 to 30 teams probably don't turn the ball over, play solid defense, and hit shots, you win. Kind of, just a general recipe for success. But yeah, they have the play. I think they're a year away. But yeah, this is a team. I think, you have to be if you're a Bruin, I think you have to be pretty happy with where they are in the 24 season. I don't know that they've peaked yet. But I think they're a year away from being, serious contenders for getting back into that national championship conversation. College basketball is better when UCLA is in the mix. When you have the blue bloods of college basketball all competing at a high level, the sport as a whole it's just better off. UCLA, good quality team, big win over on Saturday. That their schedule doesn't ease up coming into the end of the year, and then obviously get into conference play there at the beginning of the year. But yeah, that was a great performance on Saturday. They play like that. They're top 15-ish team. But I've also seen them play where I kind of just scratch my head and wonder if it's the same team that I saw, just a couple of games ago.
You're on the road. You're heading to Ohio State and Tennessee. The brackets are out, and of course, the number 1 seed Oregon got the shaft of all shaft. They bring in this final 12. They give the conference champions the byes, and then team number 5 is sitting here. My point: if Oregon ever wins this championship, we know they would have earned it here. But in our lanes, when the whole world is on the side, it usually doesn't end well. Okay. And what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing, the whole world is on Indiana at Notre Dame. And then the whole world is on Nico and the Vols catching the 7 and the hook. That hook is huge against Ohio State. Thoughts on those 2 games? I mean, I know you're heading to Ohio State and Tennessee. Listen, if it's a first one to 23, I love the Vols. And I haven't seen that high-octane Ohio State team. I guess the fans are restless. It's getting ugly there. A bad first half. They might boo Ryan Day off the field. I don't know what to expect. I mean, 7.5 for that Tennessee D. I'm running to the window. That's the first thought. But then I think of Nico. And thoughts on those 2 games, Tyler?
Yeah, obviously not used to playing in cold weather. This is a Tennessee team, when they've been at their best, they run the ball as efficient and as effectively as anyone in college football. Dylan Sampson obviously, sets the SEC single season record for touchdowns. This is a team that, when they're playing at their best, they run the ball. And that's exactly what I expect them to do. Our number on the game is 5.8. So I'm off, 1.5, 1.7 points, essentially, over where that number opened, 7.5. 20,000 tickets still on the secondary market from those Ohio State fans. Their Tennessee fans were allotted 3,500. Well, the university, I should say, was allotted 3,500. They only gave, and I do donate to the school, 1,000 of those tickets were all that season ticket holders got. Tennessee fans and donors and everyone essentially that was trying to get to the game, they got a hold of the Ohio State pre-sale ticket code on Ticketmaster and went and bought. I had a friend of mine, Trey Wallace, who works for Outkick, and Clay Travis, very, very good friend of mine for almost 20 years. He spoke with Ticketmaster, with Vivid Seats, and StubHub. 40% average, 35% with one of them, and almost half of the tickets with one of the others. All of those purchases within the last since they went on sale were from Tennessee zip codes. This is going to be. There's still plenty of tickets on the market. I think they allotted almost 100,000. I think 95,000, somewhere in that range. Tennessee fans will be well represented. There will be somewhere between 30 and 40% of that stadium will be in orange. They won't be in sections or blocks like you home game, or if you go on the road to follow your team, you're used to being half the seats are stuck in the upper bowl somewhere and half are maybe in the corner of the end zone. Tennessee fans are going to be spread out throughout that stadium. So if Tennessee gets out and early, that home field will not be as valuable as a typical Saturday in Columbus. With that said, they are very, very good at home. 4 losses since taking over Ryan Day. Obviously, one of those to Michigan here recently. But they just do not lose at home. How often are they playing quality opponents at home? We can make that argument about, the Big Ten. This game, weather is going to be a factor. Tennessee hasn't played a game that's going to be like this one. Kickoff temperature right now predicted to be in the teens. Supposed to be windy. There's a chance of spitting rain or ice. So this is going to be an ugly game. I'm not super excited about being out in the elements. Really wishing that I could convince the rest of the guys in the party to spring for a box, but that was not an option. So we'll be in 3 or 4 layers, just like everyone else. Josh Heupel at his press conference on Monday said that I guess they already probably have talks with the NCAA about what's allowed to keep their team warm on the sidelines. He said that they have literally gotten a hold of everything they're allowed by bylaws or guidelines in the NCAA to have. So that shouldn't be an issue. The question is, will Tennessee be able to run the ball? And I think they will be. Ohio State defensively against the run has been kind of meh. They haven't been dominant. They haven't been bad, really. They just kind of been good enough. If Tennessee runs, I think, for over 150 yards, this is absolutely 7.5 is way too many. If they struggle to run the ball and you force Nico to have to beat you through the air, this is a game where Ohio State, I think, could win by double digits. I played the 7.5 based on my number at 5.8. We have a projected final rounded to 23-18, so just over 40 points. Not expected to be a track meet. Don't see a ton of yards here. Field goals, I think, aren't bad in this type of game. If you can get into, you talk about, if you get into advanced analytics, you talk about ECHL, quality possessions once you cross midfield, once you get inside the 40, are you able to convert those possessions into points? Field goals aren't going to be a bad thing. Against Ohio State, typically in the past, you can't trade touchdowns and field goals very long. This is a game where field goals will not hurt you, and Tennessee has struggled throughout the season. They had about a 4-game stretch where Tennessee's kicker was 2 of 8, and there was a 4th down play. I can't remember if it was in the Alabama game or if it was a game against Georgia, where Josh Heupel had a 4th and 3 from about the 35, where 2-3 years, the last couple of years, absolute no decision. You kick the field goal there. It's a 50-ish yarder, but zero question. He goes for it and doesn't convert in one of the two. They had 2 4th down where it would have been 50-yard field goals, and he went for it twice, converts one, and ultimately leads to a touchdown. But he has that in his mind. Cold obviously will affect that. So if Tennessee is forced into, maybe kicking a 47 or 48 yarder, that's going to be a tough one for Josh to have to go with. Wouldn't surprise me at all if you see Tennessee go for a 4th down here, given the weather and the elements that we look forward to seeing on Saturday. With all that said and done, I think 7.5 is too many. It was a pretty easy play for me. Like you said, it seems like we're all on one side here, which I typically don't love being on. But in this type of playoff scenario, I think Tennessee will have just enough to keep this game competitive late into the game. 7 wouldn't surprise me at all if this game lands on 7, but at 7.5, we'll take it. If it comes out 24-17 or something like that, 7.5 is just good enough.
Before we get into your leans and picks for this weekend here, the tournament officially has not started. It starts Friday night. There's futures all out there. I do know some guys in our lanes that think Penn State doesn't have the word layup, but they got a good run to the Final Four, to the semis here. Is there any team? I know some people have said, no, I'll take the Boise State there to get to the Final Four. Add to the portfolio will help you if one of these teams make it to the semis here. Is there a number out there right now, Tyler, in the futures market that to win this all that you would take a bite at the apple and just charting it that you think you got a good shot to get to that Final Four, where then you can start hedging, you can help yourself in the Final Four in the final game?
Ohio State could be a team to look at. Obviously, they get past Tennessee. They would have a rematch with Oregon in the Rose Bowl. First matchup obviously came down to the wire. Ohio State had a chance there late. Kind of some questionable decisions there in terms of clock management, time management maybe, with Ryan Day there and Howard. Obviously, there was just some issues there. You would think those would be cleaned up, at this point of the season. If Ohio State gets past Tennessee, they know what it takes to play a close game with Oregon. That was earlier in the season. Oregon, I think, is a bit different, maybe a tier up from where they were even against Ohio State in that recent matchup. How night and day is this Oregon team from, the first 3 weeks of the season to where they are now? They were good. We knew they were good last season, thought they were, one of the probably 6 or 8 teams that you could make a serious case for winning or making a deep run in the playoffs this year. They are the most complete team right now, but Ohio State I think, can go to the Rose Bowl and compete with Oregon. Obviously, you have the script from the first game to go with. I really, really like SMU against Penn State. So I have that number at 2.9. So I'm well below where the market is. I played SMU money line for a small bit. I'm also higher on Clemson than the number. I have that game less than a touchdown. I have that one at 6.4, half of where that number is. Texas has been one of those teams that I've scratched my head for, it seems like, the last 6 weeks of the season. 2 losses obviously coming to Georgia, but I'm not sold that Georgia is as good as, maybe we were talking about them at the beginning of the year. This is a Texas team I think should be deservingly on upset alert. I think Clemson can win this game outright. Clemson money line there, also a small play for us, but Clemson plus 12.5. And when that, I was talking with a friend of mine, known for a long time, Jimmy Vaccaro. He's a guy that I don't want to say that he is a mentor, but he's a guy that for the last 15 years, when I first met him, he told me, anytime you want to reach out or you got a question about, this life, reach out to him. And he's always been there. We were talking about that number before they came out with it. He probably already had a number that Chris Andrews had given him. But I said, if they open it double digits, Jimmy, I'm going broke. He said, I don't think they open at double digits. And then a couple hours later, we see that number open over that 10.5. Clemson, for the most part, this whole season has been an anomaly. They are really tough to figure it out. They had a 6 or 7 game stretch where they were playing probably as good a football as almost anyone. Kind of laid an egg there down the, at the end there with the South Carolina game. Although South Carolina, in my opinion, is a top 15 and would have been a team that you didn't want to play in the playoff. This is a Clemson team that is capable of beating Texas outright. But yeah, Ohio State is the one I look at. I think in a rematch situation, they could get one over on Oregon. And then obviously their path at that point would be the easiest. Oregon, neutral, where would that game? I have Ohio State just a half-point dog against Oregon. So it'd be interesting to see. There were look-ahead numbers on that. I don't recall exactly where they were. I think they were short of a field goal, though. So Ohio State gets past Tennessee. You do have a tough one against Oregon, but if you beat a team that you almost beat in the regular season, your path to the title is at that point the easiest of the remaining teams.
We're going to take a quick 10-second break. When we come back, Tyler, I know you're busy. We're going to get your leans and plays for the weekend. Bear with us. We'll be right back. The pay dirt is yours, my brother.
Yeah, pretty much gave you 2 of the big picks. We played SMU plus, have that number half where market is, so pretty easy decision there. Clemson plus, anything over 10.5, I think is playable. I think this is a 1-score game, one way or the other. I also played, and this one is going to sound a bit crazy. We played SMU to win by 1-6 and Tennessee to win by 1-6. 2-team parlay pays 50-1. I think both teams are capable of pulling the upset. I don't think either team wins in dominant fashion, but if they win, I think it's under a touchdown there. Ohio State needs to be focused on this one. Tennessee is capable of, if they get hot on the ground, they can run for over 200 yards and force Ohio State into having to maybe rally. Obviously, we played Tennessee plus the 7.5. We played SMU plus, so we're backing them as dogs. But I think both have upset potential. If you think, if one of those, if they both win by less than a touchdown, 50-1, pretty crazy. Obviously, it's a lotto ticket, so nothing big there. But yeah, SMU big play for us. Clemson big play for us, and we're on Tennessee. The Notre Dame game I have 6.8, so pretty in line with where that number is. Indiana really good offensively, except for when they play really good defensive teams. Notre Dame defensively is top 15 in almost every metric that we have, so should be a good game. I think Notre Dame has been, since that Northern Illinois team. We talked after that loss. I didn't think there was a chance that they got to the playoff. All they did was run the table and prove me wrong. Notre Dame, they need to watch out. Indiana, I think they learned, I think, something in that Ohio State game. That offense just can't just roll out and get 400 yards and score 40 points. I think this is a game where Notre Dame needs to be focused. Wouldn't surprise me at all if they struggle there, but a no play for us in that other final game.
Well, Tyler, always a pleasure to catch up with you on the road, whether it's at a casino, on your way to a big football game. Stay warm, stay dry, enjoy yourself. Happy holidays. Next Wednesday is Christmas. I'll reach out to you and Brady. We'll figure out what next week's schedule is. And, of course, the following week, New Year's. So Wednesday might not be the good day, maybe a day before, day after. Who the hell knows? But just keep cashing tickets and cracking aces, brother.
Hopefully we see a Tennessee win, and that means we'll be in sunny LA for New Year's.
Drive safe, my friend. Stay in touch.
Talk to you soon. See you, Jetty.
Take care. One and only Tyler Wyatt. Go follow him at Tyler Wyatt Bets, at Odds Culture. Great friend, colleague, professional poker player. One of the best, if not the best, in the business. Could take a quick commercial break, and we're going to wrap it up. Stay tuned.
Love yourself. A merry little Christmas. And have yourself a merry little Christmas.
Shout out to Mr. Russell Saylor. Thank you for all the love and support as always. And again, happy holidays to you. To some coffee. I got some coffee right here, my brother. We're ready. Can't wait for 2025. Hopefully be launching some coffee deals here with us, of course, with Viva Tequila Seltzer, Atlanta Steaks and Seafood. You just saw the commercial. Jump on over to atlantasteaksandseafood.com. Use the promo code STEAKS10 and get 10% off your full order there. Terry Smith. Go introduce yourself on Facebook and, of course, WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play. Download the app. It is free. Shout out to CJ Nichols, Live Zone, Xavier, Kyle. Great night. Little Christmas party at the ECSI team last night locally on Cape Cod. So maybe bigger and better things next year. Maybe encore. Maybe a Celtics game. Who knows? We're pulling and hoping for a closing bell at 5 o'clock tonight. Hopefully myself and Riley will get back in action. We'll do a re-entry Wednesday. What's going on in the world? Maybe another baseball signing here and there. Bellinger to the Yankees yesterday. They keep adding. Hearing that they might go with Santander as well. Who knows? But anyways, enjoy your afternoon, people. Behave yourself. 'Tis the season. Be grateful. Be happy what you have. Not what you want or need. Trust me on that one. See you soon.